many people who are grounded solidly in the physical dimension, the idea of a crystal or a mineral being anything more than just a pretty rock sounds like New Age hooey. But there is more to this physical dimension in reality than meets the eye. Our current definition of what is alive is incredibly inaccurate. The current definition of what makes something alive is something that exhibits movement, respiration, sensitivity, growth, reproduction, excretion, and nutrition. But what makes something alive is much more complicated than this. I can tell you if these things which I've mentioned previously are the criteria by which we define life, we will have no idea what to do when we are interacting with extraterrestrial life forms that don't fit any of those criteria, but are very much alive. We need to start defining alive in terms of consciousness. What constitutes something being alive is in fact the ability to be aware, to perceive, and to think. Viruses and prions are an example of conscious beings which are very much alive, but which do not exhibit all of the traditional characteristics that we think constitute life. Minerals, especially crystals, are also alive. That is, they are conscious, they are aware, they think and they perceive. The Earth itself is comprised of mostly iron, silicate rock, and oxygen. You could consider mineral energy to be the original manifestation of the consciousness that we call Mother Earth, which also is its own living being. As far as scientists are concerned, carbon and silicon are the two elements which constitute life. Carbon is the sixth element. Directly below that is the element of silicon on the periodic table. Carbon is associated with all organic chemistry and everything that is considered to be alive. We have discovered life forms deep within the ocean that are alive, conscious, and reproductive, whose bodies are made up of 100% silicon. Their bodies do not contain any carbon whatsoever. Silicon is the primary element of quartz crystal and about 80% of the Earth's crust. Without crystals, computers wouldn't exist. Marcel Vogel, a world-renowned scientist who holds over 200 patents, including one for the floppy disk, discovered that crystals are able to receive and send both human thoughts and emotions. It makes sense when you realize that the first radio in the world was in fact a crystal set. The crystal was picking up and emitting the electromagnetic signal in the radio band of frequencies. This is very important when you realize that thoughts are electromagnetic frequencies. Crystals are living beings. The individual crystals, which we call crystals, are in fact a unit of consciousness which belongs to the cluster of crystals which that crystal point came from. These clusters can be up to meters wide. Some of you might be familiar with an aspen forest. An aspen forest is one of the largest organisms that exists today on the planet Earth. Basically what happens is you have a single aspen tree, and that aspen tree will shoot roots through the earth, and then from the roots in the earth they will shoot up a new tree. So you can't differentiate between one tree and the other tree because the root systems are all the same. So an aspen forest is considered to be one organism. This is exactly the same way that crystals work. You can't differentiate between the crystal point and the cluster which that crystal came from, because the cluster of crystals is one organism. Unlike humans that can't be really cut in half and continue living, you can remove a crystal point from the crystal cluster, and that point will still be alive and still will be imbued with consciousness which is capable of perceiving and emitting thoughts. So why are crystals so important to human life? Any herbalist can tell you that the various herbs and plants which exist on this planet are capable of helping humans in a numerous amount of ways. For example, when you have a headache, you might take something like aspirin. That's because there is a component in willow bark, which is what makes up aspirin, which helps the human pain system. The reason it is working on a sub-physical level is because the frequency of willow bark is a very high and slow frequency. it's not a compatible vibration with the vibration of something like a headache. And because of the law of attraction, the only frequencies which can share the same space are frequencies which match. So the frequency of willow bark and the frequency of something like a headache are incompatible. They are not a match. So what must happen for these two things to share the same space, a person's headache and willow bark, is that they must match. But the pure vibration is always going to be the most dominant vibration because well-being is the natural condition of all beings on this earth. So when a human with a headache shares the space with willow bark, their headache must cease to exist because it can't share the same space because it's not an energetic match. This is essentially the same thing that's happening when you have a mineral or a crystal in your living space. Minerals, especially crystals, work this same way. Many of the human ailments which you could consider on this planet are very non-cohesive and rapid patterns. They're not really a match to the frequency of mineral energy. So you could use something like, say, fluorite. A condition such as cancer or as arthritis has a very rapid non-cohesive pattern, whereas fluorite has an energetic frequency and a pattern which is very coherent and very grounding. And so the excessive and rapid energy of cancer or of arthritis can't share the same space with fluorite because it's not an energetic match. So when you introduce fluorite into the equation, the vibration of that ailment, being the arthritis or cancer, must change to match the vibration of the fluorite. And once the vibration has changed, the physical manifestation must change because, as we know, the physical reality must match the energetic reality which is creating it. And so the ailment must cease to exist if it's going to share the same space with fluorite. Crystals and what we call gemstones have a vibration that is free of resistant patterns. They are among some of the structures in the physical dimension that have the very most balanced, cohesive, strong, and intentional frequencies. Their unchanging physical structure is a reflection of the fact that their innate energetic patterns of balance and strength and cohesiveness are incorruptible. In the physical dimension, when you pick up a crystal, it may look like you're not really doing anything more than touching and looking at it. But in the other dimensions, in which both you and the rock exist, you are entraining energetically with that rock. This entrainment causes changes to your structure and physiology on the physical dimension. The governing law of every dimension within this universe is that of oneness. In physical life, we have come to call this the law of attraction. Simply put, only frequencies that are a vibrational match can coexist in the physical dimension. Therefore, in order to share the same space with another form, you must be vibrating at the same level that it is vibrating. Health is the natural state of any form within this universe. Therefore, the natural inclination and tendency of anything within this universe is that of balance, cohesiveness, and ease. This means that the natural progression of vibration is to entrain and resonate in the direction of health. Because of this, when you share the space with a crystal that has a resistance-free vibration, instead of the vibration of the crystal adopting a non-cohesive pattern, your energy will entrain with the energy of the crystal and adopt its cohesive pattern. Because of this entrainment effect, crystals and gemstones are incredibly adept at bringing us back to a vibrational state of health and harmony. Anything with an inherent energetic pattern of non-resistance can act like a tuning fork, by offering a vibration that we can use to retune ourselves to a healthy vibration. This is what is really happening on an energetic level of substructure when you listen to a song that makes you feel good, or spend time near a person that makes you feel good, or take a homeopathic remedy. Crystals and gemstones are some of the most powerful advocates we can have in the physical dimension. These advocates are things we've all used, we just haven't really known that we're using them. Most often what happens is you'll walk into a room and you just feel kind of drawn unexplainably towards a rock. What's really happening is your true self is telling you that that vibration which that rock offers is something which you, I don't want to say need, but it's something that will cause you to come into alignment more with who you really are and with your definition of well-being. Many people who are limited by the physical dimension, which have you believe that you are personifying an inanimate object when you are treating a rock like it's a pet or like a person. But if you can get over the socially conditioned embarrassment of talking to a rock, you will find that these mineral spirits are incredibly beneficial. Not only are they beneficial, they're less like tools and more like family members and close friends. You can't possess a crystal any more than you can possess a human being. You'll find that they are where they are for a time, just like us. So they are with the people that they're meant to be with, and when they're not meant to be with those people anymore, they find their way to the new place and the new people that they are meant to be with. You might have a crystal for 20-something years, and then you might meet somebody randomly, and you might just get this internal knowing that that crystal or rock is supposed to be with that person. The reason for this is because the crystal is actually influencing you, so it is broadcasting thoughts, broadcasting the idea that it is supposed to be with somebody else, and you are picking up on it. Being extrasensory, I can see this interaction. It's quite interesting. It's especially interesting because minerals are incredibly communicative. They really are. I really have to just stop. They're funny. Like, they will, from across the room, be going crazy, and it's really funny. There's a lot written about the properties of minerals and the properties of different crystals. So it would be of benefit to you to research those. If you feel like you have any conditions in your life right now which you want some help with, do the research on what kind of stones have frequencies which help those conditions. But always let your intuition guide you towards the stone. So regardless of what you've heard or read, if you walk into a room and you feel yourself being pulled towards a certain stone, that's your indication that the frequency which that stone holds is going to be a benefit to you. And that will trump everything else that you've ever read. Your intuition is always going to know what is in alignment with your highest good, more so than any information that your logical mind tells you is right. In my personal opinion, the more raw that a crystal is, the better it is generally at emitting frequency. So polishing or cutting them decreases the intensity of their frequency. Size is not necessarily an indication of the strength of a crystal's frequency either. So just because a crystal is small does not mean that it is emitting a giant frequency. I could go on all day long about this topic. I personally could not love the crystals and mineral spirits that are spending time with me more if I tried. They assist me in my healing work, and every night I personally choose one of the crystals from my little collection to place under my pillow. And during the night, it works very well because when you're in a state of non-resistance like you are when you go to sleep, any mineral that you spend time around, you will be in training with without any resistance. So there's no thought patterns which you're going to be holding which hold you in opposition to that frequency. So you'll find that you wake up in a really good mood. Sorry, I'm having fun. So that sums up this episode on crystals. I wish all of you, and any crystals who might be listening or helping to transmit this message, a wonderful week.
I see my life through a diamond, a rainbow of colors as the light shines through. You